Hey y'all, this is SVDP, and this is First Time with Rolling Stone India. Was in high school in grade 9, and I think I was just had a whole bunch of like weather references. I think it's like calling Mr. Hurricane, Boy Blizzard, the Mike Wizard. It was terrible. It was terrible. That was the first song I wrote, and then I had written verses earlier, but I remember that being like the first complete song. And thinking back on that, it makes me really appreciate how far I've come, because that was trash. My most memorable moment of listening to hip hop and being like, whoa, what is this? Is we were new to Canada. And I remember me and my brothers, we were crowded around the TV, and it was this record with Cheva Ranks featuring KRS-One. And when KRS's verse came, I was just like, what is this? And I think that was my most, it was such a crucial moment for me when I saw that. And me and my brothers just recorded that on VHS, and I just kept playing it back over and over again. But that was like the most important like hip hop moment for me, and probably my first earliest hip hop memory. So yeah, shout out to KRS-One. Yeah, I think it was Mama Said Knock You Out, LL Cool J, or a Michael Jackson record. I was young, so like I didn't even really fully understand LL's lyrics, but I remember when that record came out, I'm like, I need to get this. That was a memorable moment for me. So yeah, shout out to LL Cool J, the GOAT of GOATs. Also, for people that don't know, coined the term GOAT. So, just a little gem for you. First time I performed in India was at the VH1 Supersonic Festival. I don't think there could have been a better way for me to like have a debut in India. Incredible crowd, festival, performance. Yeah, that was, I would say, was probably still my best show in India. And we came out, I think we also debuted the Rhythm Raps for the first time also. And I remember doing some earlier cuts off Made in Jaffna before, when I was still working on it, and just seeing the crowd react to records that had not come out yet. I'm like, yeah, I know this is going to work. But that was such a memorable experience for me. And yeah, remember, that was the one. I remember that exact moment when I got the master back from Made in Jaffna. And I was on my studio floor. I was lying down. And what's funny is, at that time, I didn't have an album cover. So I was lying on my studio floor, headphones on, listening to the master for the first time. And this is such a surreal story, but I was listening to the album front to back. And when it got to Seeds, the second last record, and it was Die Iconic, was playing the last record on the album, my mom texted me on WhatsApp, and my mom has only sent me 2 WhatsApp messages ever. One must have been, the typical normal WhatsApp message parents send, and then this, and it was a photo of her, but my brother had used like AI to make an older photo of her, and it was moving, and she just sent me that, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you could use this." And I was like, wow, this is such an incredible moment, because I didn't have an album cover. And for her to send me that at that exact moment, I just finished listening to the album for the first time. I was like, okay, so this has to be the album cover. So the album cover you see is the photo she sent me. And I got another artist to like add some cooler visuals to it. But yeah, that was the first time I listened to Made in Jaffna front to back. Yanchan, got two boys. First time I met Yanchan was at my studio. He just came to my studio. Before that, I think he was trying to get a hold of me through my. I think his parents had met my mom, because my mom owns a furniture store in Toronto, in Scarborough, and they were shopping for furniture. And then he found out that, I was her son, and then he tried to get a hold of me. I told my mom, do not give this kid my contact. Ignored him for several months. He was persistent. He hit me up. Finally, I checked out his music. It had some potential. So I was like, yo, come to the studio. And yeah, I think first time I met Yanchan, we might have worked on a record called Slow Love, which did really well when it came out. But I think Yanchan was the first artist that I met, like a younger artist that was still hungry, that had like the ethic to pull off his ambitions. Like he was telling me all these ambitious ideas, and I hear that often. Where people are like, I want to do this, but I can see Yanchan was just working at it. He was just grinding at it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you got this. So ever since then, I was like, we've been building, and I've been seeing his growth. And since that first day, just to where he is now, it's been such a beautiful moment to watch that evolution of Yanchan. And us just working on the Culture Boys record, I feel like is something so special for our community, and working on a project like that. That was essentially like fan-made, really. Like Culture Boys didn't exist before our last tour. So to think that from that studio session all the way to being in India performing, records that we worked on and an album we put together is pretty incredible. My first memorable fan experience, I think, would be the VH1 Supersonic Festival. So I had finished the set, and I was in the trailer, and then this was maybe 45 minutes after my set. The security comes, and he's like, hey, there's a girl that's been waiting to see you for 45 minutes. And this was after I had chopped it up with the fans. I'm like, 45 minutes. I'm like, this seems crazy. And then I will go back to the front of the stage, and she was just there, and she was in tears. And she told me she had missed the show. And I thought that's why she was so sad, but it wasn't. She was just, it was tears of joy. And she was just so happy to meet me. But for me, I was curious as to what did you hear? What was a record that makes you feel this way? And it was a record called, she said she heard a record called Light. And that's a record that I wrote for my daughter, and I made a video with my daughter. And she said how that had impacted her so much. And what's funny is a record like that is usually not what my core audience even knows me for. Most people don't even know I have that record, but that record is so special to me. And for someone to connect with that, it made me realize the worth of putting out, records that may not be massive hits, but have deep impact on the people that listen to it. So just that exchange and figuring out, what has impact for certain fans, and just the appreciation. I just felt so overwhelmed by just appreciation for my work, and I just felt this sense of gratitude. I think it was just as overwhelming for me as it was for her, just because I get DMs and messages from time to time, but to physically meet someone that is conveying that to me, it was a special moment. The first time I knew I wanted to make music for a living was probably in a past life, to be honest. I can't recall a time of being alive where I didn't want to create, ever. I've always wanted to create. I've always been creating. As a child, I was drawing, I was writing stories. I started rapping later on, but I was always creating. And then, being from a South Asian Tamil household, my parents, of course, wanted me to go to university. And I did that, and I hated it. I hated school. It was not for me. I finished it. But I've always been a creator. So I think I don't even have a memory of when I wanted to make music, because I couldn't think of a time before. I've always wanted to do this.